I sincerely hope the writer's strike in Hollywood gets resolved and the writers are given a fair deal they deserve as soon as possible.
By now, you might have heard of the writer's strike.
The writers are in full force.
Here's why writers across the country have gone on strike, how the studios are responding, and what this could mean for your favorite movies and TV shows. The Writers Guild of America is a union that represents over 11,000 writers across various scripted mediums. Every 3 years, the union negotiates agreements with studios under the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. Think companies like Disney, Paramount, Netflix, Hulu, and Apple. These agreements are intended to protect writers' wages, benefits, and working conditions. In 2023, after failing to agree on a new contract by May 2nd, WGA members voted to go on strike.
So I just got an email from the Writers Guild of America saying that the negotiations have broken down, and as of midnight tonight, the Writers Guild of America will be on strike, which means no writing at this point.
With the rise of streaming, writers say, studios have forced them into a, quote, gig economy. With this strike, writers are fighting for, among other things, increased compensation and residuals, minimum staffing, better pension and health funds, and more regulation when it comes to AI. According to the WGA, median writer pay has declined by 23% over the last 10 years when adjusted for inflation. The union also estimates that over half of writers are working at the minimum salary allowed by the current contract.
Writers are working on shorter contracts for less money, and they're not getting paid when that content is being replayed.
The people literally creating the content that is making you richer than you've ever fucking been before can't pay their rent. Bitch better have their money.
Meanwhile, the WGA estimates that in 2021, 8 Hollywood CEOs together pocketed nearly $780 million.
Stupid! Make sure you take care of people! You guys who make millions and millions of dollars! For God's sake! Without the writers, we're nothing! They create the stories that make our hearts beat! Help out now!
These are the people who make up all of your favorite things on TV and television, and they are not paid accordingly, while guys up in the suits who don't really make up anything get paid a lot more.
Residual payments, which writers receive for reruns of their work, have significantly decreased with the introduction of streaming. Because more broadcast TV shows are readily available to stream, networks have less of an incentive to re-air episodes. And in the case of shows developed for streaming platforms, writers say they aren't being compensated fairly in accordance with their viewership numbers, which streaming platforms often keep private.
It used to be that on TV, you would get a job, you could work on that for the entire year, and you would make money once those episodes that you wrote aired on TV, and if they kept playing them over and over again, you would get paid for that. Over the years, that structure has gone away, especially with the advent of streaming.
In negotiations, the WGA asked for viewership-based streaming residuals, but the studios rejected the proposal and refused to counter.
Whereas the writers used to get 4, 5, 6 figures on their residual checks from a TV show or a film, now those same checks are coming in at $20 because of streaming. The people that are writing your favorite TV shows can't even afford to pay their rent, can't even afford to feed their families. Please let that sink in.
Writers are also calling for an end to what industry people call mini rooms. Mini rooms allow studios to hire a small team of TV writers to write a few episodes before a show gets picked up. Under this arrangement, writers are paid the union minimum rather than their normal fees, and they lose out on the stability of a traditional writer's room.
And then, if the show is picked up, they will most definitely go with a smaller group. If you get cut, then you're out on the street looking for another job. We're talking about 6, 7 weeks of employment here and there.
To address the issue of mini rooms, the WGA demanded that writers' rooms have a minimum of 6 to 12 writers, depending on series length, and that these writers be hired for at least 10 consecutive weeks. The studios rejected this proposal. There's also the question of artificial intelligence. The WGA asked for AI not to be used as source material or to adapt literary works. The Studio Alliance rejected these proposals, instead offering to hold annual, quote, meetings to discuss advancements in technology.
I think we don't really believe that a robot can write something that will be as compelling as what a human being could write.
It takes years to learn how to do that. You think a computer can do it? I don't think so.
While most of the conversation surrounding the strike has revolved around TV, feature films will also be affected, though it'll take longer to see the impact. So far, the only film confirmed to have stopped production due to the strike is Marvel Studios' long-awaited Blade, which doesn't have a finalized script. Meanwhile, for projects with completed screenplays, the strike means writers won't be able to be on set for rewrites.
Of course the writers should be getting paid. I mean, they create the content. I mean, for them not to be able to walk freely on sets and see what they created and help create it. I mean, how do you expect anything to happen without the writers?
So far, the Studio Alliance has rejected or ignored many of the WGA's demands. And there's no telling how long this strike could last, affecting not just writers, but workers across the industry. So what happens now? Well, late-night shows were the first to halt production.
They are entitled to make a living. I think it's a very reasonable demand that is being set out by the Guild, and I support those demands.
Among a growing list of scripted shows, Netflix's Stranger Things, Showtime's Yellow Jackets, and ABC's Abbott Elementary have paused writing and production.
We are a show that writes while we air, and so if this strike goes on for a significant period of time, our show will not come out on time.
The last time the WGA went on strike was in 2008. It lasted 14 weeks, cost the city of Los Angeles over $2 billion, and hit shows like Lost and 24 had to cut their seasons short.
I think I realized I never processed the trauma from the last writer's strike. Like, do the kids today know? Do they understand? Do they get what happened?